Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to this What Do You Want to Watch Spoilercast for the best international feature film at the 93rd Academy Awards, another round. I'm Ashley Hobley. Joining me today, Dylan Blight.
I like a good drink.
Yep, you certainly do.
Wow.
I mean, it's interesting that we're recording this in the middle of the day when normal people would not be drinking. You know, it seems quite wrong, but also quite fitting that we're both very sober.
Okay, I was about to say, I thought, I was like, is this leading to a joke where you're like,
no.
But Dylan is sitting here.
I can see the 23 cans in the background. Yeah. So please be aware we'll be freely discussing anything and everything about the plot, themes, and ending of the film, so if you haven't watched it, come back later. So with that said, let's jump into our discussion of Another Round, or as it's called in Danish, Druk, which translates to binge drinking. Directed by Thomas Vinterberg, written by Thomas Vinterberg, Tobias Lindholm, starring Mads Mikkelsen, Thomas Larsen, Magnus, Millang, and Lars Ranthe. 4 high school teachers consume alcohol on a daily basis to see how it affects their social and professional lives. So Dylan, this is a film we've heard about for a while. It didn't play anywhere near you. Played somewhat near me, but you know.
But you didn't watch it, which is disgusting.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't regret not seeing it in the cinema. I think it was just enjoyable at home. But Dylan, what do you think of the film?
I loved it. I thought it was amazing. It was everything I wished I could have seen in the cinema and more. It was just this. It's just one of those movies where it's got everything. Like I don't know what else you could really want from a movie. It, you know, makes you laugh, makes you cry, makes you think about life, makes you think about things, you know, like you go on a journey with these characters. Like I really just don't know what else you could really want out of when you're seeking a good story in a movie. You got these fantastic performances. It's well, I don't know. My take on it, and I don't know if you're like what your take on it is. Like I don't even feel like it's not like binge drinking or whatever. It's not like a celebration of it. It's just more of it's a thing. And the other thing I was thinking is like, I guess, because it comes up once in the film where they're like, his wife says about, well, everyone bloody drinks in this country anyway, like all that sort of stuff. So I think there's obviously an element of societal discussion about Danish drinking culture, I guess. That,
yes.
But honestly, watching this, I feel like it's not too far from Australian drinking culture. So
yeah, I think it was interesting. Obviously, during the film, they used the historical footage of politicians, and I recognized a fair number of them, but I suspect a fair number of those would have been Danish,
more that direction,
more those sort of politicians.
Yeah. One looked Russian, but I wasn't sure. It sounded Russian.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was a Russian politician there as well. I can't remember his name, the guy before Putin. But yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. I think it is a bit of a slow burn. You know, it takes a while to get going, and you know, it's not like the most riveting movie I've seen this year or you'll ever see. But it is an interesting look at these. It's pretty much like a midlife crisis movie, kind of. All these 4 men are like at the point in their life where they're sort of, you know, want to do something interesting and exciting. And the interesting and exciting thing they want to do is do a research paper. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know, because we never saw fully if all of them were, like, obviously there's degrees to them. Like, I don't know if it's all like midlife crisis. Like for Mads's character, what's his? Martin, right? Yeah. For him, yes. I would say like he was just straight up depressed without even acknowledging it, is how I took it, you know, and it very much implies that he's been in that slump for a while, and it's kind of like an awakening when at the start of the movie where the kids and their parents just point out, you know, he's not even really, he's floating in and out of class. It's not the kids, it's actually him who's just like not even.
Yes, because he gets the Winston Churchill factor. Yeah,
and then all of a sudden the kids are like,
yeah, because that's why I was glad I wasn't in a cinema, because I was like, is he right or is he wrong? Like, was Winston Churchill Prime Minister or involved in World War One?
He says World War World War One, yeah.
He says one when it's two. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why the kid goes two or whatever they say. Yeah. So he's just floating in our lives. So I kind of read him as being somewhat depressed or to a degree, or that sort of thing, and he sort of has this whole awakening. You could say the one who brings up the whole drinking theory, which is Nicolaj, yeah. Magnus Millang plays him. He has more of that. He's just started a family. Like he doesn't seem like, I wouldn't say there's no level to that character that seems like he's actually depressed. He's just sort of, he's in that stage where he's just got these bunch of kids and he's talking about how they're, falling asleep, pissing on him, stuff. Like he's just looking for something, something to do outside of dealing with his family and his job or whatever. And this is exciting. But I didn't read him as being like depressed or a midlife crisis or whatever. No. Tommy, who we don't actually find too much about, I think he suffers from, I guess, loneliness. He's just
loneliness, yeah. Obviously, his partner left him.
Yes.
And then he's got a sad dog.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. So he was obviously just the lonely character, and I mean, obviously, for you see that just having this friendship group, like this, spending more time together, that does a lot for him. But then also, I think the loneliness like leads him to become the alcoholic through the journey, and not like he falls off the thing, which leads to the sad ending, obviously. And then Peter was, I think, obviously the more like he's the one that's the most, I don't know, okay out of the four,
I guess.
From
I
we see,
think it just implied that, like, he's the youngest, or like obviously the least experienced, or obviously he's single and
ready to mingle,
all those sort of things. Ready to mingle.
Yeah, gives him
art teachers.
Gives him I mean, it does what's his Mads' character Martin as well, but Peter gets, like, I guess, a level of confidence and that sort of stuff that they're discussing of getting out of it and this sort of stuff. But yeah, all four of the men have very different personalities, lives, and reasons, things that are going on that the idea of doing this experiment speaks to them, I guess. So, okay, but I liked how none of the characters seemed at all the same, or like they was all going through different things, and I liked how it wasn't like straight up explained to you what's going through every person's mind or whatever. Like, it was sort of left open, like how I'm saying that, like, I think he's been depressed for several years, but the film never is like straight up like has that character go, man, I've been really depressed for years, like,
yeah, it's all context clues and that kind of stuff. We'll say, obviously, the plan was working to start off with. Like anything, it's escalation that ruins everything.
Yeah.
They were going good at 0.5. And then they just had to ramp it up,
All for science, though,
Was it, though? I will say, the other thing that sprung to mind while watching this is a very expensive science experiment.
I don't know, maybe booze is cheaper over there.
Maybe. I don't think it would be.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Obviously, it really quite. I think they did a really good job of playing drunk. I think obviously that's a very difficult thing to do. Act drunk and not
come off
fake.
like you're fake, like you're acting. Yeah, the part that got me, that the shopping scene where they go full fucking drunk, and that shopping scene where I can't remember what they're asking for, whatever it was, a cod. Fresh cod. It's just in that guy's face. Where's your fresh cod? We don't have any. We've got frozen. We don't have fresh cod. And then the fact that scene just very sharply after he falls over and everything just cuts to them like leaning over that water trying to fish, like just the sharp cut of it. And like Mads is like leaning forward. I'm like, this guy's going to fall in, but it didn't. So yeah,
I'm going to catch a crab and then use that crab to catch a cod.
Yeah, it was all of that was great,
Yeah, there's a lot of good scenes in this. and even like obviously they all have. Oh well, I think it's only Mads and Martin and Peter that you get to see really their teaching improve. But I guess Tommy also, I think he was always the problem of the group. Obviously, he did a poor job hiding that alcohol at the start of the film. And it followed through to the entire thing. But I thought they did a good job of setting up, his relationship with the soccer team, purely to hit you up with that emotional punch right at the end.
Specs.
Yeah. So let's talk about the ending. Obviously, it's much talked about. Obviously, I feel like anytime I've seen the Another Round brought up, it's about that final sequence, the big dance number that they've been teasing through the entire film of him doing jazz ballet. Did it live up to the hype for you?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had it spoiled. Like, other than like 2 seconds.
You didn't know.
Other than 2 seconds from the Academy Awards or whatever, I think they showed on screen for at some point. But it was only like the very start of the dance where he's like doing a little sidestep thing or whatever. So I haven't like seen any clips on Twitter, and if I have, I've ignored them. So watching it in full here, it's glorious. As a fan of Mads, I was getting an extra kick out of it, I guess, and just him like doing this full blown thing, and the song choice is perfect. And I think just as a culmination, it's like, but out of context, maybe the scene, like if he was to show someone that and go, hey, look, here's the guy from Hannibal or Doctor Strange dancing and stuff, like they may laugh and get a kick out of it. But I also think within the context of the film, like it's a beautiful finale. Like it's just like the emotions that scene supposed to stir up against amongst everything else that's happened in the film by that point. I think it's like the perfect moment and song and everything to end the film on.
Yeah. Beautifully choreographed, really interesting. Did you take it as like a celebration of his newfound relationship getting back on, of life in general, or did you see it at the start of another dark path back towards alcoholism?
No.
It's kind of odd that, how they're going to honor their friend who just died basically because of alcoholism, just to drink a bunch.
See, but I like that because I think the opposite route is because look, and I feel like you could have all sorts of different conversations, and maybe people will read differently into this movie. But I don't feel like this movie is like pro alcohol or negative alcohol. I think this movie is straight up just like alcohol's a thing.
It's just about people's relationship with alcohol.
Yeah, and like that's the glue between a lot of the film. And by the end of it, I don't think it's trying to say drink like you should get drunk all the time. This is well done. But I think if they'd taken the opposite route of like, so after Tommy died, they're like they go to that restaurant and they're like, do you want a drink? And they're like, no, we shouldn't drink. Like he died from drink. Because then all of a sudden the film becomes look, alcohol killed our
PSA,
friends. Yeah, it's like a PSA of like, now we should also stop drinking. But it doesn't become that because that's not realistic. Like like I think human race we've had alcohol around for quite some time. It's ingrained into different parts of our culture, different groups, different ways or whatever else. And just as humans, there's an interesting relationship that we have to alcohol. And I guess that's like a part of the film's exploration. And I do think a lot of it's like around the particular culture of that country. Whereas if we're talking about, doing the Leonardo DiCaprio remake of this, the Americanized version, it's like, well, what's that take to do differently? Well, now that I've watched the film, I know the answer is, it has to be about America's relationship with alcohol and how's that different and how's that play out in the film. Like that has to be the...
I think, it's going to be very different because obviously they're high school teachers in this, and obviously all the kids are drinking, which would certainly be the case in America, but I don't think they could portray that the same way. I'd expect if they're going to do this American version, it'd be set in a college, which would. So
I couldn't. Were they high school or were they like college, going to university? Sure. I don't know how
they were high school.
But I don't know how the Denmark like schooling system works.
I think it's like our high school, yeah.
Because I never assumed they were young kids, because I just Googled it then to clarify, and it says
Maybe it's university. I'm not sure.
Quick Google says their drinking age is the same as ours, which is
Ours.
18. Whereas anyway, even 18, that's a difference between the American remake, because what's the American drinking age? Is 21.
21, yeah.
That's 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a big difference between the type of kids and whatever else. But yeah, I never took it as, because they're not talking about the kids drinking secretly or whatever else. They're talking like the kids drink a lot because they're legally allowed to drink a lot. So they must be. Yeah. I took it as they're 18, and they looked 18, right? They didn't look like they were.
Yeah.
They were like super young or anything like that. They looked old enough to be 18.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think it must be high school, because they had the scene with the parents come in as the start of the film. I don't think you would get that in like a college.
I don't know where their high school runs to.
No, because all the kids are trying to get into college.
Okay. Maybe their school runs until, I don't know.
They're 18? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Are you keen for a American remake?
I'm not keen for it. But
like,
as I said,
you'd be intrigued to see how they would tackle it.
Yeah, I think you could. I think they could do it and make it interesting, as long as it's a thing where you could look at another round. This one, you could look at the American version another round, and they're different enough that you could watch them both, and they stir up sort of different conversations. I think the movie just goes to complete shit if it just tries to remake the story of this movie, remake the exact same sort of characters and whatever else. Like, I think if they want to do a remake that actually works and can sort of complement this film and attract a different audience or whatever, you just take the bare premise of a bunch of teachers decide to experiment around drinking, and then everything outside that should be new. Like the character, all 4, 3, however many characters you want, they should be new. I would
hope they would retain the tone.
Well, a drama
it would be
comedy.
Very easy to go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
very high comedy.
Retain it as being both a drama and a comedy, but I mean, like, craft the characters as fresh for ones that make sense in an American setting, and then craft the different elements and discussion around drinking within America, instead of like trying to adapt a discussion around drinking in a completely different country. Like, that would just be. And trying to mold that to America, it just wouldn't work. So that's what I would hope for the remake. And I hope they don't try and do the dance sequence at the end, because it would just be silly and corny, and it would come off like they're being trying to recreate the dance scene. Because maybe their story, the American story, and the American characters, like having that dance sequence wouldn't even work or make sense. So,
no,
like within this context, you've got these kids racing around. And look, I'm like, what are these kids doing? But within the context of the film, you buy it because the characters are acting like this is very normal. So then us watching it as people who don't live in that country are going like, shrug, all the characters within this movie acting like this is a very normal thing for kids to be doing. So this must be, a thing that would happen. You know what I mean? Like, and because that's portrayed that way, that by the time they go out and they see the kids and they're celebrating and the dance sequence happens, you're like, this is all seems rather fantastical, but within the way it's presented within the movie, you kind of buy it. Whereas if they tried to do something like that in America, I'd be like, I don't know if this is a thing. Like, I wouldn't buy it as much, because I've seen so much more American movies, obviously, and you see American culture a lot more. Well, the world sees American culture a lot more. So
when the teachers and students are more separated.
Yeah.
There's a clear defined difference. How do you feel about the Martin Anika relationship playing out? Is it satisfying? I mean, it's hard to say, because obviously it must be difficult, their relationship in general, because they're both on different schedules.
Yeah. Even
before the events of the film.
Yeah, I read that their relationship wasn't a big part of the movie. Obviously, it's kind of another hump for Martin's character or whatever, but I don't feel like it was like an integral part of the movie in the long run. But I sort of read it as he's doing this whole. I read it as there was a stage where his brain clicked over and he wanted to say that he doesn't like her work schedule or we need to make more time for one another or whatever. but done that whole thing where he didn't say anything, she didn't say anything. They've continued for years down that road. Years pass, they're just floating in and out of the door at complete opposite times of day. No one's saying anything or doing anything. And then when he finally has a discussion, he says, well, you're always working on a different schedule or whatever. But he's never said anything up until that point. So, like, I wasn't like, yeah, fuck her. Like, because you can read between the lines and go, this isn't a situation that you get to
overnight.
This is two people in a relationship failing to communicate at all, and this is how this is how this has happened. So the ending of her messaging him and stuff, it's like, yeah, cool, maybe that'll work out, maybe it won't. I don't like, it's just them being open to try, I guess. You know?
Yeah. Interesting use of the title cards as well. Like, one, obviously bringing them up for the alcohol levels and that kind of thing, but then to use that for the text messages as well.
Cheaper.
Yeah, cheaper than like getting some sort of text
fake mobile screen or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they always do.
And then the other thing I want to bring up, I thought that Peter would get in trouble for bruising up that kid before his exam. I thought that was going to be a thing.
No
repercussions.
I liked how he didn't get caught. Fine. Again, we're saying the kid's illegal age to drink, so he wouldn't. He would be getting in trouble for giving a student alcohol for sure. But it wasn't like a territory of giving alcohol to an underage student. Like it doesn't get into that sort of weird like a lot more odd territory there, So I like how he didn't get caught because it was just helping him out. I watching that stuff, I was like, yeah, good. You helped him out. You did a good thing, and because nothing went wrong, and you just helped him pass the thing. And that's another one of those scenes where I guess if you're someone watching this movie and you're purposely going in to watch it as this movie sounds like it's pro alcohol, like all of those scenes, like him feeding that kid alcohol, that is very positive scene for alcohol because there is no negative to it at all. That scene is solely going, hey, you know what? Motherfucker's struggling with anxiety over here. Alcohol's going to help him. And there's no negative side to that at all. But I guess not within that character or that scene. The negative side is shown later where it's like, okay, well, Tommy was someone struggling with a lot of things, including like being lonely or whatever. And alcohol was helping him until it wasn't, and then he was addicted to it. And then that led to, so I feel like for every sort of like, well, alcohol was good here, there is actually a negative in the movie, even if it's not within the same character. Like, I don't feel like they needed to show the kid after credit scene 20 years later sipping on a bottle. Damn, if that teacher hadn't have given me those years.
Got me hooked. Yeah. No, yeah, I thought it did a good job of showing a blanket of people, and it wasn't like the same as in real life. The same thing doesn't apply for everybody. There isn't one set amount for everybody and that kind of thing. So
yeah, I definitely feel like the movie's just trying to, as I'm saying, like I think the movie is just saying, here's alcohol, here's a look at a bunch of characters revolving around alcohol, here's a look at the culture of alcohol within our country, and blah, 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 blah. That's why I tweeted, like, it's just one of those movies where it just feels like it's representing life, like the movie just feels like it's got a nicer way of characters and themes and overall, and it doesn't feel like it's trying to say anything particularly like this way or that way about any of its themes. Really, it's just one of those movies that's just like, here's life, like this is life to a degree for these people. This is like real life, and this is how it's presented. It doesn't you don't walk away from the end of the movie like, man, I fucking should look out for my family members or who are drinking, or you don't walk away from the movie like, man, I certainly did walk away and go, fuck, I want to drink now. Like it's just a movie, just a look at life.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, shout out to the the scene where Tommy's coaching the kids and he can't give Specs the drink.
Yeah. Have a sip of yours? No. Come over here, other kid.
Give him a sip.
No, you're giving him a sip.
Can't he have a sip?
You give him a sip of yours. No, you've got to play the team.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to talk about another round?
No, it was a fantastic movie. Definitely worthwhile winner of Best International Film. I loved it. I thought it was everything I wanted to be, and it's one of my favorite things I've watched this year. Great soundtrack. Great performances.
Great soundtrack. I've listened to that last song, It's a Life by... hang on, I had the...
Get that shit on Spotify.
By Danish group Scarlet Pleasure. Very good. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this What Do You Want Spoilercast. Let us know what you thought of another round. Let us know on Twitter by going to explosion.com/Twitter, or you can jump into our Discord to let us know by going to explosion.com/Discord. If you want to help us out, leave us a review either on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser or on Twitter, or just tell a friend about the show. And if you liked this episode and thought it was $1, head on over to our Ko-fi page at explosion.com/support and buy us a coffee. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess, with or without alcohol.
Do you need to do,